What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 5 deadline. So I'm going to go through all the important team news, go through some benching headaches, answer some of your questions, and take a quick look at my own team as well. So let's get into it. So let's start with the team news for Chelsea. Enzo Maresca said that Cole Palmer is okay and said we have a session now. So presumably he's expecting him to train and then will be available for the game against Man United away for anyone that's looking to go there or for anyone that has him in their team. He also said on Garnacho, I think he's ready to start. Probably not someone I would rush in to buy because Chelsea have quite a few attacking options, but maybe he'll become an option by game week 9. For Everton, David Moyes was asked whether Mykolenko and Branthwaite are close to a return. He said, we will see. I think that's kind of important for anyone looking at Michael Keane. 4.5 million, he's got really good goal threat for a centre-back, but once Branthwaite is fit, Michael Keane will almost certainly come out of that team. So I probably wouldn't take that risk for 4.5 million. And no one should be buying Everton defenders this week anyway, unless you're on Wildcard. He also said we're dealing with a couple of other knocks, but there's no mention of who those players might be. Again, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much unless you're on Wildcard. Like if you want to go for Grealish or Njai or Dewsbury Hall, they're probably all going to be fine. It's not like any of them were, doubts for this weekend, and then Moyes has said there's knocks. He's just said there's knocks, so I probably wouldn't pay too much attention to that. For Newcastle, they haven't had a press conference on Friday, and I don't think they'll have one because they played Champions League on Thursday night. But I think this was after the game. This is what Craig Hope reported, that Eddie Howe said we're going to have to look after Nick. So he's talking about Voltemada. There's no guarantee, even by managing him, that he's going to stay fit. Now, interestingly, even with Visser out injured, Voltemada did not start last night. So I think that's a doubt on his minutes moving forward. He'll definitely start, or at least I'm pretty confident he'll start against Bournemouth this week, of course, because he didn't play in the Champions League. But going forward, when they got weekend, midweek, weekend matches, even without Visser, Voltemada's going to have to get up to speed before he can play all of those games. So for anyone looking to take a punt on him, I think if you want to play it a bit safer, someone like Evan Nilsson or, of course, João Pedro are probably slightly better options. For Liverpool, Slot said all of them are fit. I can choose between 21 players. So this is where we might start seeing a little bit of rotation, a few players rested that we're not quite expecting. On Isak specifically, he said he felt his body more than ever before after the 60 minutes he played. That's in the Champions League where he started, by the way. Let's see how he's recovered. So I was pretty confident when I saw Isak was starting Champions League that Ekitike would definitely start this weekend. I'm a little bit less confident now because he's gone straight in to the 11. He's played 60 minutes. Slot's talking about him, how he's recovered. If he recovers well, maybe he just plays Isak again against Everton. This is what I would say. I still wouldn't buy him this week because even if he starts, he's definitely getting subbed early. Then it's Palace away in Chelsea, where I think for 10.5 million, there's just not enough guarantee there. If you've got Ekitike, he is definitely going to be a problem soon, but I think there's still a good chance he will start against Everton. So I would probably keep him for one more week, but from game week 6 onwards, if Isak and Ekitike are both fit, there's going to be, a huge minutes risk with Ekitike in particular. And I think Slot said either before or after the Champions League game that he doesn't really see either of those players playing on the left. So they really are just fighting out for that number 9 spot. And so even if Isak starts, there's an early sub with Ekitike and vice versa. So Isak I wouldn't buy. If you've got him, then you probably just keep him at this point. Ekitike, I'd be tempted to risk him this week. And then next week onwards, you've probably got to look to sell. So I'm like 99% sure that I saw a quote going around the other day saying Slot doesn't see Isak or Ekitike as playing off the left. But as I was kind of editing this video and putting it together, I saw a clip go up that says that Hugo Ekitike can play off the left, although he does it differently to the likes of Gakpo. So maybe it is a possibility, but I do not see it happening anytime soon because I think Isak and Ekitike are just going to share minutes and Gakpo's mostly going to start off the left. But maybe at some point we see the two play together. So I stick by what I said. I'm not 100% sure about the Isak start. I'd probably keep Ekitike for one more week. But after that, I think he's a problem. So for Wolves, it looks like Strand Larsen is back. Vitor Pereira confirmed that he trained with the team yesterday. He said, I hope tomorrow he can help us. Obviously not for 90 minutes. And then said, that's the information I've got from the medical team. So I don't know whether Strand Larsen will start, but I think there is a chance. And we might just see an early sub around 60, 65 minutes. So whether or not you start him if you've got him in your squad will probably depend on what your alternative options are. For example, if you've got Strand Larsen and Senesi, that's probably quite a close call. I mean, on paper, Leeds at home is such a good fixture, but we know Senesi will start and will probably get defensive contributions. So maybe you just go for that option. If it's Strand Larsen versus like a Reinders against Arsenal away or Dewsbury Hall against Liverpool away, I'd be tempted to risk Strand Larsen. Worst case scenario, you get some minutes off the bench. You hope he scores late on. So whether you start him or not probably depends on who else you've got. I wouldn't buy him this week. For Bournemouth, Christie is available. Diakate, if any of you went for him, he's training but not 100% fit yet, so he's not likely to start this weekend. For Man United, Cunha and Mount are both available for Chelsea at home. Dallo and Martinez are out. Dallo's only important for those of you that have got Dorgu. While Dallo's out, Dorgu should be nailed. And that doesn't really matter this week for Chelsea at home, but Brentford away in 6 and Sunderland at home in 7. If Dallo can't get back fit and available to play, Dorgu might still be an okay option to keep on your bench until those good fixtures. If some of you have still got Cunha in your squad, I think there's a chance he will start this game. I don't think Mason Mount will. I just don't think they need to take a risk with him because of his injury record since he's been at Old Trafford. But with Cunha, if I remember correctly, Amorim said something last week, like if you ask Cunha, he's available this weekend. But obviously the medical staff didn't agree. So he must have already been fairly close. And now he's available. I think they might just chuck him straight in. I cannot guarantee that, of course, but that's my read of the situation. And then for Palace, Wharton and Nketiah are back. And Wharton is apparently fit to start. I think that is just beneficial for Palace as a team as a whole. So for those of you that got like Mateta, that's probably a good thing that Wharton's going to be in the team. Nketiah being back, maybe not quite such a good thing. I'm predicting Mateta starts, right? Which is pretty obvious. I don't think that's a hot take or anything like that. But we might see an early sub this time. Like 70, 75, 80 minutes he comes off. I think if you've got Mateta, I would not worry about the quotes from Glasner midweek saying that he's tired. I just don't think that's a huge issue. There's a week off after this game until they play Liverpool. So Mateta almost certainly will start. I'd have no worries about that at all. But Nketiah, now he's back, could get 15, 20 minutes off the bench. For Arsenal, Odegaard, Saka and Ben White might be available for the Man City game in Game Week 5. Arteta said a decision will be made tomorrow. Mourinho and Gyökeres are both fit. For anyone that was worried about Gyökeres going off in the Champions League game, it does just seem like that was tactical. He did get quite a nasty cut to the back of his head in the first half, but he played on after that. So I don't think that was the reason he was subbed. If you got him in your team, you should definitely be starting him this week. And then Saliba is also pushing for a start. I would not be surprised if he starts that game, because obviously it's a huge game against Man City. But Mosquera has come in and done well. So I think in the future, if players like Saliba, Gabriel, and maybe Doubts, Arteta's got someone he's happy to use now. So I don't think players like that will be rushed back, but I suspect the plan was to have Saliba back and available for the Man City game. For Forest, maybe this is the news that most of you have been waiting for. Murillo is a doubt. Now, I have seen different stuff going around about him. One said that he's touch and go. One said that he's likely to miss the game. One said that he's a doubt. We're not quite sure exactly, but it doesn't look like he's been past fit by Ange Postecoglou. So what I would say is he's probably going to be a 90-minute man or a zero. I don't see... I mean, it's obviously possible, but I don't think it's a very likely scenario that Murillo's on the bench and then comes on later on. I think he's either starting or just not playing at all. So if you're on bench boost and you wanted to bench boost for Murillo, I would just not do it. I would either save bench boost for a future week or transfer Murillo to someone else. But if you've got him, I still think because it's Burnley away, you could possibly put him in your team if you're willing to take the risk that if he doesn't start, that he's just not going to play at all. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have more news than that. It's worth saying there is often embargoed quotes that come out 10:30 p.m. UK time on Friday night. So maybe if you check in later on Twitter, you might get more news. And obviously, if there is anything important, I'll tweet about it and stuff like that. But as it stands, Murillo's a doubt. We don't really have much more than that. So quite a few benching headaches this week. One person did mention Morgan Rogers to me, and I know he's been super frustrating. No goals or assists in the first 4 game weeks, but it's still Sunderland away. I think for most people, if you've got Rogers in your squad, you should be starting him this week. Second on the list, I've put Murillo against Burnley away. Now, we know from the team news earlier that Ange said he's touch and go, which isn't ideal. And there is some risk involved with playing him, but I'm going to read that situation that he's either going to start or not play at all. He just feels like one of those players that's either 90 minutes or 0. So I think because it's a good fixture, because he has some goal threat, because he can be good for defensive contributions, even if we haven't seen it so far this season, I'd probably start him, doing it knowing that if he doesn't start, he's probably not in the squad at all. But please do not do it if you're not willing to take the risk. If you want to play ultra safe and only go for players you know are going to start, Murillo should be on your bench this week. That's why he's got an asterisk next to his name. Then I've gone for Esteve against Forest at home, then Konza against Sunderland away. Obviously, Villa are a stronger team than Burnley, but Burnley are at home. Then I've gone for Senesi. Newcastle at home, not easy for a clean sheet, but we know how good Senesi is for defensive contributions. And I don't see Newcastle putting like 2, 3, 4 goals against Bournemouth, not after Champions League on Thursday as well. So there's an outside chance of a clean sheet. And if they don't get it, I don't see Bournemouth getting smashed. And therefore, Senesi already feels like a 4-pointer to me. Then I've gone for Caicedo, Man United away. That feels like a game where he's definitely getting defensive contributions. May well get a yellow card, possibly. But he's definitely starting on 3 or 4 points in that match. Then Goodmanson against Wolves away. Ahead of Porro and Van der Ven against Brighton away. That one I'm not completely sure about, especially with Strand Larsen back now, because that improves the Wolves' attack. But Leeds' defence has been quite good. And I think Brighton attack is slightly underrated. So that's why Goodmanson's ahead. Then Dewsbury Hall. Then Reinders. Now, I think I'm going to get a lot of questions tomorrow about Porro versus Reinders. I'm not completely sure that Porro should be ahead. But that's how I've gone for it right now, because Spurs' defence has been pretty good. And it's difficult to get attack and returns against Arsenal. That's why I've gone for Porro ahead of Reinders. Dewsbury Hall and Reinders is also such a close decision. Basically, I think it's harder to get points against Arsenal than it is Liverpool. Although, even as I'm talking about this, Reinders is probably the better attacking option than Dewsbury Hall. Like, if they had the same fixture, which I know is impossible, but let's say they did, I'd probably go Reinders over Dewsbury Hall. So it tells me I think Reinders is the better attacker, and he's playing in the stronger attacking team. But he's got the more difficult fixture. So I've just about put Dewsbury Hall ahead, but I'm not sure I've got that right. And then Tosin against Man United away at the bottom, because despite how bad Man United are, I'm still going to back them to score. Then on goalkeepers, I've gone for Raya over Dubravka, but I will say this. If you've got Haaland in your team, I'd be tempted to play Dubravka. I think Raya is a little bit better. That's just how much I back the Arsenal defence. But if I've got Haaland, I'm going all in, and I'm benching Raya and playing Dubravka instead. So let's get into some of your questions. How many transfers should we aim to have by game week 7 or 8 to get Arsenal players, etc., without needing to use the wildcard? You're not allowed to say as many as possible. I guess my alternate answer could be as many as you need to get the players that you want. But let me give you a proper answer. Game week 7, fixture swing for Arsenal, I would probably want at least one defensive player. So either Gabriel as an actual defender or Raya in goal. Not essential, but that is what I would like. If you can get to 2, happy days. But 1 is where I would like to be. In terms of an Arsenal attacker, it might be nice, but I think it's far from essential. Like Gyökeres, Madueke, Eze, Saka, etc. If you haven't got one of those players, it's not going to be the end of the world. So Gabriel or Raya would be quite nice. Gabriel would be my preferred option if you can afford that in your defence. And then the other team I would think about is Chelsea, especially from game week 9. Now, you could buy them before. That's not a problem. Like game week 6 against Brighton at home is a good entry point. Game week 8 against Forest away is a good entry point. But game week 9 really is the fixture. Sunderland at home. And Cole Palmer is probably the player that I would want because of captaincy. Now, if you had to captain Salah against Brentford away, not a problem. Haaland against Villa away, also not a problem. But on paper, Palmer against Sunderland at home is arguably the best pick. So he's another player that you might want. I would expect that most people watching this already have João Pedro as well, so that's kind of covered off. So one defensive player for Arsenal in 7, Cole Palmer by game week 9. That's easy to say it's 2 transfers, but depending on how your squad is structured, it might be more than that. For a lot of people to get Palmer in, it's probably 2 moves. So you're going to have to look at your own team and work it out, but that is what I would be looking at. If you can get 2, 3 Arsenal players, 2, 3 Chelsea players by 9, great. But I think 1 defensive and Cole Palmer is what I would be looking at. So another question about transfers. Is it worth making transfers before a wildcard just to protect team value, or is it better to save them? Where possible, I would save them. I think wildcarding with 2 or 3 transfers in hand, maybe even more than that for some of you, is a really strong position to be in. So if you can avoid using them, I would. If it's a really big upgrade for the week before you wildcard and you're going to gain some team value, then maybe I would consider it. So take Semenyo, for example. I think as long as he's fit and available, game week 6 wildcard, pretty much everyone will include him. So if he's also a big upgrade this week for your midfield against Newcastle at home, and you're looking at it thinking he might go up in price either tonight or tomorrow night, then it could be worth it. But only if it's a big upgrade. So for example, right, game week 5, let's say you're thinking about wildcarding in 6. if you had Morgan Rogers, who's been super disappointing, he's still got Sunderland away this week. Is Semenyo a massive upgrade? I think he is an upgrade. I think Semenyo is better this week, but not enough to probably use that transfer. If, by the way, you've got a player going down in price that you want to sell and someone else is going up and you're going to gain 0.2 million and it's an upgrade, then maybe consider that a little bit more. But for most people, I think it's a stronger position to be in to wildcard with transfers in hand, because if you get really stuck afterwards or you want to switch Salah to Haaland and back again or get Cole Palmer, whatever it might be, then you're in a really good position to do that. So save if you can, unless it's a big upgrade or unless you're going to get like a 0.2 million swing. So would you pick Chalobah or Tosin on wildcard? So Chalobah is 5.1 million, Tosin is 4.5 million. Both of these players have played every single minute for Chelsea in the Premier League so far, so they're clearly first choice. Does that mean they're absolutely nailed? I'm not sure I would go that far, not to the levels of like Van Dijk, Salah, Bruno Fernandes, etc. Purely because they're Chelsea players. I don't think there's many options in that squad that are like 100% nailed to start every single game. Look what happened to Cucurella recently. That does put me off a little bit. It's worth saying when Colwill got injured, Maresca said something along the lines of Tosin's the only defender in that squad that can play the central centre-back role. So that probably does spell good things for him moving forward. If he can stay fit and available, he probably does start the majority. But I don't think I can sit here and guarantee that he starts every single game. If they played the same minutes, I think Chalobah will get slightly more points. But I don't think it's worth paying the 0.6 million for. I think Chalobah's probably got slightly better goal threat from set pieces. And if you look at the defensive contributions so far this year, so I've got a table set up on Fantasy Football Hub per start. Tosin's on 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles per start. So he's almost hitting that threshold every game. But Chalobah's slightly ahead. Now, will that continue when we play more games? Maybe not. But Chalobah's always been quite good. He's 10.25. So slightly better goal threat and slightly better defensive contributions. By the way, if you want to use the Up to Stats tool on Hub or any of the other tools they've got, 50% off, link in the description below. So, yeah, Chalobah, slightly better goal threat. Slightly better for defensive contributions, but 0.6 million, I'm not sure I would pay it. And I don't know if he's any more nailed than Tosin. So I think I'd probably just go for the cheaper option. By the way, if neither was an option, I might consider that as well. Because the problem is, if Maresca's going to rest them, it's going to be in those easier games. And actually, when you look at Chelsea's fixtures, they're not bad. But Man United away, I wouldn't be desperate to play a defender in that game. Brighton at home's okay. Then it's Liverpool. Then against Forest, it's an away game. Chelsea is strong, right? Stronger than Forest. And under Ange, but that's a problem, right? Under Ange, we're expecting Forest to get worse defensively, maybe better from an attacking point of view. So how good is that fixture going to be from a defensive point of view for Chelsea? Not quite sure yet. Sunderland at home, good. But maybe that's the fixture they get rested in. Spurs away, difficult. Wolves at home, good. But then in 12, it's another away game against Burnley. Again, if I had a Chelsea defender, I wouldn't be worrying about that fixture. But it is another away one. Then it's Arsenal. So I look at that fixture on from a defensive point of view, and I'm not sure how good it actually is. Especially when you've got players like Senesi at Bournemouth who are so good for defensive contributions. Obviously, you can have more than one defender in your squad. I get that. I guess it depends who you're missing out on. Like, who are you not selecting by going these two? I think they're okay. I don't know if I would pick them on wildcard. So are you still planning to sell Salah for Haaland in game week 6? How long will you go without Salah for? So I'll try and keep this brief because I think this is going to be a huge talking point next week, which we'll go through quite a lot. But yes, that is my plan, primarily because I really want to captain Haaland against Burnley at home, and I don't necessarily want to use my free hit. That's why I'm so keen on making that move. But it's worth saying that Salah is still pretty good after game week 6 and 7. And obviously he's good enough that he could return in either of those games. So if we look at Salah's fixtures, game week 6 is Palace away. And then game week 7 is Chelsea away. After that, Man United at home. Honestly, you could argue he's the best captain that week. Brentford away in 9. Villa at home in 10. Then he's playing Man City. But of course, that means Haaland is playing Liverpool. Albeit Haaland will be at home that week. And then 12, Salah's got Forest at home, followed by West Ham away, Sunderland at home. So as much as I'm kind of on board with selling Salah in game week 6, there is every chance I might want him back in game week 8. But, and this is a reason that I'm strongly considering the move, if I'm stuck with Haaland instead of Salah, it's not a massive problem. So Burnley at home in 6 is good. Brentford away in 7 is better than what Salah has against Chelsea away. Then it's Everton at home in 8, Villa away in 9, Bournemouth at home in 10. Like, if I'm stuck with Haaland and having to captain him in these weeks, it's really not a problem. And ultimately, I want to get Palmer in for captaincy in 9, whether I've got Salah or Haaland anyway. So I'm going to make the switch to answer or I'm probably going to make the switch. I always reserve the right to change my mind. To answer the question of when am I going to get Salah back or how long will I go without him for, I'm actually not sure. It might be all the way until game week 12 or 13. Because I think game week 8, I'm happy to captain Haaland. Game week 9, I want to captain Palmer. And then game week 10, if I've got to captain Haaland against Bournemouth at home, that's absolutely fine. And actually, one week I've not looked at is game week 11 for captaincy because Haaland and Salah are playing each other. Yeah, Palmer's got Wolves at home. So my plan really is to get Haaland, then figure out how I get Palmer, and then later on figure out how I get Salah back. I don't know if I will do this, but one option is to never buy Salah back. Now, I know people are thinking you're never going to do that. You're absolutely correct, right? There's like a 99% chance this is not what I do. But when you look at 11, Captain Palmer, game week 12, where Salah's arguably the best captain on paper for Forest at home, Palmer also has Burnley away. Game week 13, Salah away to West Ham. He's good that week, but Haaland has got, let me see here, Leeds at home. So I'd rather captain Haaland. Then game week 14, maybe that's my free hit week. So I get Salah in for Sunderland at home, and then I just go without him against Leeds away and hope for the best. Because 16 is Brighton at home, 17 is away for African Cup of Nations. So that's, again, we're going to talk about this a lot next week. I know that already. I'm kind of keen on doing it because I don't think not having Salah 8 to 10 is a massive problem. If I get really stuck, I've got the free hit to bail me out. And Haaland and Palmer are good options the whole way through. Like, ultimately, I can't have them all. There's a question in a minute about Salah and Haaland. If you do that, getting Palmer is really difficult. So something's got to give. And I'm kind of okay for a few weeks going without Salah and just figuring it out later. It might be that Palmer picks up an injury and then it's really easy to get both. Or maybe all I do over the next kind of 6 to 8 weeks is swap them back and forth. I don't know yet. That's something to figure out later. I do prefer to absolutely know exactly what I want to do. If I'm honest, I don't know right now. I get Haaland, then I figure out the rest later. So what are your thoughts on Salah and Haaland on Wildcard? I would say that it's absolutely viable. I've just spoken about doing the Salah to Haaland switch, then maybe having to switch back later and figure out how to get Palmer. That's a lot of transfers. By going for both Salah and Haaland straight away, you limit the amount of moves you have to make for your team later on. You're going to want Haaland for captaincy in 6 and 7. You're probably going to want Salah for some games captaincy after that. Having both in straight away lets you focus your moves elsewhere. Now, I've literally just wildcarded in game week 4, and I only went with Salah with a plan to get Haaland in later on. That's mostly because I just feel like the squad is better overall. And that's what I did in game week 1. And I haven't really changed my opinion on that. It doesn't mean it's right. There's people out there that have got both that have absolutely smashed it. So if that's something you want to do, that is what you should do. If I look at my current squad with Haaland up front instead of Gyökeres, I've got to free up 4.5 million. Now, one easy way to do that, I guess, would be to go on wildcard with the 4.5 million keeper. Maybe someone like Petrovic at Bournemouth. Most people are not going to go with Bruno Fernandes, which is completely understandable. So I need a 5.5 in there. Let's just put Reinders in. And then maybe I find 0.2 million from somewhere else. I downgrade Evan Nilsson or Mateta. Actually, most of you got João Pedro. So let me put João Pedro in there. Then I've got to find another 0.5 million. That could just be like Lacroix to Richards. So different Crystal Palace defender. By the way, the defence that I've got, I'm not sure I would go with on game week 5 or 6 wildcard. So you might want to choose a few different players. I'd rather have Gabriel on game week 6 wildcard than Van Dijk. But either way, it doesn't matter for the purposes of what we're talking about. Like, is that a terrible team? Like, I think if you want both, you've got to go something like Dewsbury Hall, Reinders and Paquetá. You've got to go for 3 cheap midfielders under 6 million. But that's what you sacrifice by getting both in. Is that terrible? Not really. So I think it's viable if that's the way you want to go. I've still got Semenyo. I've still got Evan Nilsson up front. Evan Nilsson could be someone else, for example. Yeah, I think both is okay. Would I do that still if I was wildcarding? I'm not sure I would. I think if I was wildcarding in 6, I'd probably just go Haaland, not Salah, because I'd prefer to make a few upgrades in other places. You don't have to do that. It is completely viable. It always has been. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what I'm going to do. So my team is fairly straightforward this week. It looks like I've come through the press conferences without any injury issues. Fingers crossed it stays that way. So I'm going to roll the transfer and bench boost. Get that chip out of the way, then I don't have to worry about it until the second half of the season. So Raya in goal against Man City at home. Lacroix in defence. Hopefully going to score for me this week because West Ham have been pretty poor from set pieces. Joachim Andersen against Brentford at home and Virgil van Dijk against Everton at home. My midfield four is Salah captain. That is going nowhere. Salah will definitely be my captain this week. I think he's the best option on paper. Fernandes Chelsea at home. Semenyo Newcastle at home. And then Paquetá against Palace at home. Up front, Evan Nielsen, Mateta and Gyökeres. And then the bench is Dubravka, Senesi, Goodmanson and Dewsbury Hall. Is that bench amazing? Not really. I think with Strand Larsen being back, potentially Leeds are going to lose that clean sheet. Dewsbury Hall's up against, my defender in Van Dijk. That's not great. I don't see a huge amount of goals for Everton in that game. But you never know, right? It's a derby match. Maybe Virgil van Dijk pops up with a goal and Dewsbury Hall takes the clean sheet. I would absolutely love that. But the chances are Dewsbury Hall's probably going to blank. But even if he gets 2 points and Senesi gets defensive contributions and maybe Dubravka nicks a clean sheet, I'd probably take that right now. And then I'm pretty well set up from 6 onwards. And in game week 6, I'll probably do the Salah Haaland switch. Probably Salah and Mateta to Reinders and Haaland. But I'm tempted by Njai instead of Reinders. I don't think there's too many other midfielders I'm looking at right now. Xavi Simons maybe is an option as well. But I'll think about that more in game week 6. And I do think it's maybe something I have to give a bit of thought to later today or maybe Saturday. Because I would not be surprised if by Saturday night or Sunday night, Salah's going down in price and Haaland's going up. So I just think so many people are going to want to make that switch. But what it's worth, by the way, because Man City are not playing till the Sunday, if Salah's going down or Haaland's going up in price on Saturday night, I probably, not completely ruling it out, but probably won't make the move because I want to see Haaland play first. Because imagine if he picks up an injury. All of a sudden, it's just easy to keep Salah. So if the price changes are going to happen on Sunday, I might make the move early, possibly. But I probably won't do it on Saturday. Otherwise, my team's fairly straightforward this week, as it should be after a wild card, and I've got lucky with injuries. So I'll leave that one there. Make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Check out Fantasy Football Hub using the links in the description below. And I'll catch you at 9 AM UK time on Saturday morning for the Game Week 5 deadline stream. See you then.